Tom Curler's doing a pretty good job on the school board with me. I don't want to forget about him. He's a good guy. So pay attention to that, if you would. This is a pretty tough spot to speak. You got to follow Gwen. And I don't know about Jeff down here, but this young woman is a fabulous speaker. Wait till you hear her. I mean, she's the only person I ever took and put on my Portland School Board Facebook page from her talk. And I wrote on it, this is as good a talk as I've ever seen at a school board meeting, and I've been coming there since 1975. And Elizabeth, who's listed as the president, we've been teasing, we don't have a president in Oregon to save our schools. But she's extremely bright and a terrific teacher, so this is a tough follow-up for me. Plus, the lighting is bad. I can hardly see what I wrote. It could really be tough. Anyhow, I want to talk about kind of what we can do to deal with education today, and kind of what's happening. There's two separate approaches to education, and they're coming together with a huge conflict. And one of them, of course, is the testing, accountability, standards, data, and all the education, corporate education reform movement. And on the other side is education for the whole child. Education for citizenship, fulfillment, being part of society. After all, Declaration of Independence, this country was basically founded on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So you would think we'd educate children towards the pursuit of happiness also, but we seem to have been getting away from that to some. We've got Washington, D.C. and Salem conflicting with what we would like to do actually in our schools and locally. And I think this kind of played out a little bit in the negotiations process. It was, do we have this type of school or do we have this type of school? I think it's the money versus the passion. People are making a lot of money in education these days. Not a little, a lot. Hundreds of millions of dollars people are making. Pearson has taken over all sorts of stuff in America for education. And so that's really a hard group of people to fight. How do you fight corporate control? But where I think this can be seen the best lately is really in how the Common Core, which is the Common Core, new standards for the 45 states, how they dealt with kindergarten. There are 135 people in the Common Core that changed the kindergarten standards, and they can talk all they want about it not being a curriculum, but Common Core is definitely a curriculum, because what you teach in your schools, that's the curriculum. I'm sorry. If you're teaching, analyzing things, that's still your curriculum. And what they did was 135 people put together Common Core. Not one of them was a K through third grade teacher. And we took and changed, and this is what's happening. We took and changed in 45 states the entire kindergarten curriculum for 45 states, basically all of America, and we didn't talk to one person who'd ever taught in kindergarten to do that. It's absolutely unbelievable that as a country we would sit and allow something like this to take place. And we're buying into it even in Portland. Last Monday at the school board meeting, they had posters for all the board members. And the poster had a picture of, it said, "College begins in kindergarten." And they had all these little kids with different colored robes and the hats, the graduation hats, and about half of them didn't look very happy at all. And I thought, geez, college doesn't begin in kindergarten. Kindergarten is play, basically. It's learning through play. And so instead, we're shifting that. And we're doing it because somebody way back in Washington, D.C. decides to do it because they're going to make a lot of money. And then we buy into money in the state, and then from there we then pass it down into our schools, and people aren't standing up and saying, hey, wait a minute, this is not right, as much as we need to. Everybody in this audience should be standing and saying, wait a minute, this isn't right. And there's reasons for that. And now it's post-negotiations, which is kind of what this is about, what happens after negotiations. And the question really is, how will that conflict play out in Portland? And the power I would go, if you had to bet, I'd go with the corporate reform, because they've got the money, and right now they've got the power, and they're pushing it like crazy. I go down to the Oregon Educational Investment Board meetings, and I'll be almost the only person there. They have them during the day, so teachers can't go, but they're pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And so it's basically money driving the politics of education now. It didn't used to be that way. Money didn't used to drive it. But it does, and it's like the environmental movement, become like the environmental movement in a way. You know, you've got an environmental movement that's trying to do the right thing, and then you've got money driving the other side. Well, education has shifted, and people don't really always get it. And the problem with trying to overcome the reform movement is it's complicated, and it's taking place in other places. It's not like protesting a nuclear power plant that's maybe in your neighborhood. It's something happening back in Washington, D.C., which I haven't even ever been to Washington, D.C., if you can believe that. So how am I supposed to influence what's happening back there for the children in Portland Public Schools? You just basically can't do it. For instance, Common Core is really tricky. I've worked with Oregon Save Our Schools for the past 2.5 years, and we get maybe 40 and 50 emails back every day of some really, really outstanding educators. And I still don't really get it all. Nobody really does. It's a complicated thing. And so you go ask busy parents, or busy teachers, or busy administrators, or busy school board members, or busy legislators. How do they have time to sit down and look through the Common Core and make sure what's happening in the education in the schools? That they literally don't. So here's the question. What can you do? What can I do? What can we all do about this? What can the activists actually do to fight it? First, we need to focus on education we're giving our children, and we need to evaluate if it makes sense. And if it doesn't, then you need to fight it. Don't sit and say, well, they're saying no. If it doesn't make sense to you, fight it right up front. Second thing. Don't trust agendas, proposals, mandates, or educational changes which offer generalized solutions. There are no silver bullets. There's no research that is infallible. There's no theories that should just be accepted. We need to question them right from the get-go. Third, we need to support transparent and open government, particularly at the school board, which I'm on, would be really nice. That includes parents, teachers, and the community up front in their decision making. We send out a recommendation, then we ask people to respond. It's like building a house, and then you ask them to go in and clean and figure out what to do with the bathroom. It's already built. Now it's really hard to change. We do that all the time. You need to demand that we do it up front. And the fourth thing and the last thing I have to say is we need to educate ourselves. If we don't educate ourselves to what's taking place, then we can't fight for the education of our children, and we don't value education if we don't educate ourselves on this really important topic. So thank you very much.